Hi, welcome everybody. This is the Agriculture Lady, and welcome to this week's episode of the Cosmic Clinic. And tonight we have special guest, Jean Livingston. She's a Reiki master and a healer, and she does agriculture. So I wanted to get the show started. I'm about to post the Zoom link right now before I forget, because sometimes I do. So welcome, Jeannie. Why don't you introduce yourself and tell um, everybody a little bit about your experiences using Agnihotra, just, personally and with people that you use to heal.
Yes, good evening. My name is Jeannie, and I am a Reiki master. I've been practicing Reiki about 11 years, and I was introduced to Agnihotra through Dee. I had brought it into my healing sessions and have noticed a major clearing on my clients and healing, and got very good results back with a lot of mental healing as well as physical healing. So Agnihotra has been a win-win here at my home. I grew a garden and put ash in the garden this summer, and my garden, it produced amazingly. Uh, I had a great crop. I was able to eat organic, which was such a blessing to my body, and I was able to give out some vegetables to my neighbors. So I was really grateful for Agnihotra and what it has done for my life. Personally, Agnihotra has really had me to become more calmer, more peaceful, more focused. Um, I experience more with butterflies and birds here on my land, and it's been just amazing just being part of Agnihotra experience in my practice as well as in my personal life and here on the land.
Oh yes. So yeah, Jeannie is very peaceful at her place. I spoke at an event that she had last weekend. Oh, such nice energy there. And she's a regular Agnihotra practice. She practices Agnihotra on a regular basis. And so it feels wonderful over there. So anyone that's just joining, this is the Agnihotra Lady, and this is this week's episode of the Cosmic Clinic, where we talk about the ancient wisdom of Ayurveda and how it reflects now in a modern world. And I'm the Agnihotra Lady, and you're listening to Jean Lee Livingston, who's talking about her experiences doing Agnihotra. So I'm going to start off with the Bhuruti mantra as we jump into this week's topic. Swaha, Agniye, Idamama, Swaha, Wayave, Idamama, Swaha, Suryaya, Idamama, Urbawa, Swaha, Prajapataye, Idamama. So that's how we normally start. And so, Jeannie, so how quickly did you see the effects of Agnihotra, and what were the effects that you saw when you first started doing Agnihotra?
I seen the effects right away. I had noticed I had like some roses on the back of my patio where I was doing the Agnihotra, and the rose bush has not produced in years. And all of a sudden, the rose bush came up and was producing amazing flowers like I never seen it before. And I noticed I like the birds. That was key. I was able to hear more birds in the trees, and see more butterflies and just nature. It was just more nature, just more aware and more nature around the around the house, around the land. It was amazing because we have deers here too.
Mm-hmm.
So I was able to see just more activity with the animals and with the insects. And I could tell I have a dog, and I would have her sitting with me, and I noticed that she loved it, and she would be so calm,
Mhm.
and she enjoyed it right along with me.
Oh my God! So she would be sitting right next to you doing the agnihotra.
Yes, and she loved it.
Oh yeah, animals they do respond. I know that. I think I mentioned to you, my daughter has a dog, and the dog will calm down. At the time, the dog she has a Siberian Husky, and it was a puppy, and it would be so energetic, but it would calm down as soon as I would do agnihotra. And you know how wild Husky pups can be.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so and you notice it. So that's the difference that you notice. That is a wonderful experience. So for anyone that is not familiar with agnihotra, agnihotra is something that we do in a copper pyramid, like we have over here. This is not agnihotra. This is just a regular homifier, but it's done at sunrise, at sunset, and it's in tune to the circadian rhythm of nature. We use brown rice. We use dried cow dung, and we use ghee, which is nothing but unsalted butter that we boil down, and those are the basic ingredients. And so at sunrise and at sunset, there's something wonderful that happens, interaction between the sun and the copper pyramid, and nutrients are put back into the atmosphere.
Hmm.
We say a wonderful Sanskrit mantra, and there's that music that takes place as everything begins to unfold and be healed. And so it is a purification. And as we purify the planet, we too are purified as human beings because we're part of the planet. And then at sunrise, that's when all the ethers, electricities, and energies are very high. And it floods
Hmm.
the planet. And so there's a rejoicing when you chant the mantras because everything is being healed. So at sunset, as the energies, electricities, and ethers, as they recede, that's when we do the sunset agnihotra, and like it's a wonderful healing that takes place there. And so that is the basic explanation of agnihotra. So I wanted to explain that for those that are just viewing that have never heard of agnihotra. So it's a wonderful way for us to deal with the pollution that's happening on the planet everywhere. You know, you can't run from pollution. I've heard people saying, "Oh, I'm going to move away and move into a cleaner place," but at this point, just so that you know, the entire planet is tainted and poisoned because we the humans have poisoned the planet. And the way to restore that balance is to do agnihotra. And so when you do agnihotra, it goes 8 miles up in a 2-mile radius. So when you do this in your home, you're basically doing it for your entire neighborhood within the 2-mile radius. And so it purifies the air, purifies the water. And like Jenny was talking about earlier, when you use the ash, let me get some ash. This is the ash here for gardening. It's called Homer farming. The ash is very healing. It restores soil. So if you live in an area that's polluted, it restores the soil, increases the nutrients. Water is able to reach roots better. Roots are better, and it increases the harvest. Like, you know, Jeannie was mentioning that she wasn't able to grow the rose bush and roses came in. So it is a way for you to be able to restore the soil and be able to eat. And so now, as we go into this pandemic, it really is an earth crisis. Let's just make that perfectly clear, because at some point we won't be able to grow food. And this has been talked about many, many years ago. And we see now that food is hard to grow. And then at some point, you won't even be able to grow weeds. That's right, you won't be able to grow weeds. And it's hard now for many of the farmers to grow food. I'm a member of Facebook group with Black farmers, and a lot of their crops were destroyed by heat and by flooding. So, and as we see with these wildfires, everyone, and continued flooding, the situation with our food will get worse. but agriculture is a way to restore the soil. And so for this week's topic, we're going to be talking about water and the importance of water it is for us as humans as well as the planet. And we're also going to be talking about what is life versus living. Life versus living. And so those two topics kind of go hand in hand, because you can't have any type of life on this planet without any water. Okay? You can't have it. You cannot have life without water. And if all the water is polluted, then I mean, what do you think is going to happen to the animals, to the plants? We won't be able to eat and things like that. So, so life versus living. And so, you know, when we're born, we go into these many different phases of living. And then as we go into adulthood, then it gets into what school are you going to? What college are you attending? What job are you going to get? Then as you get older, okay, who are you going to marry? What are you going to do? Are you saving for retirement? You have all these things that have to do with living. And really, when you are born, you're born to find out what life is, what goes on with that, what goes on with yourself, other people, the universe, and really what creation is. And so when you explore all these things and then some, that is really living a life, and not just simply existing to just get up and eat, go to work, and then come back home. Okay? That's just basing, okay, you know, this is my day-to-day life. So we as humans, we are meant to explore beyond those basic things. We have to do with the material things that man has set up for us to do. Man has set up for us to go to school. We have all these things to accomplish. In man's world, we have to get some type of degree, earn some sort of living. But remember, we are human beings. And a human being is just that. You can just be. You shouldn't have to perform to do anything to exist on this planet. And so sometimes we as humans, we get caught up in all these things and we forget to sit still and to just listen in our hearts and communicate with the Creator, and to understand what it is that makes us human. What is the purpose here on this planet, and how are we supposed to be service and help each other? And so that's the topic I really wanted to cover, because that's really important. It's really important. What do you think about this life versus living? What have you come across in dealing with people with this subject, Jeannie?
Yes, I'm right in alignment with what you're saying, and so in agreement. What has happened, I notice, more and more people are really, because of the pandemic, more and more people have took the time to settle down and meditate it and go within and realize that there's, you know, everything they need to have within. It's not all the things and the ripping and the running. It's just having more time to sit and be grateful. That's why I found that more people have just they had no choice but to take the time to sit and go within. So so it has been a blessing and a lesson as we move through these times, these great times. But at the same time, I'm noticing in talking to more people, they're saying that they are spending more time in nature, going to the mountains, going to the beach, just standing out in the yard with their shoes off, being in one with nature. So, which is great.
No, yeah, those are good observations. And so it's just so everybody knows, agriculture in Atlanta is at 7:27. So we're going to do it the last I think last week we did Agnihotra, so when I'm going to do Agnihotra and just sit silent for a minute, and then we'll continue the conversation because Agnihotra comes earlier now. So I have a little alarm that'll go off, and then we'll do that, and then we'll continue the conversation. But no, it was interesting, like Experience Life, and Sri Charles and I were talking about it was a movie called The Count of Monte Cristo, and it's the version, not the one with Richard Chamberlain, but the one with Jim Caviezel, the actor that played Jesus in The Passion of Christ, and he played the Count of Monte Cristo. And so one of the things I was saying to Sri Charles is that if for anyone that has not seen the movie, it's a wonderful movie, and he in the movie he was being wrongfully jailed, and he's in this jail in the middle of the nowhere, and his priest is jailed too. And the priest teaches him about all these esoteric things. He teaches him how to read and write. He teaches him how to use a sword, but really he's teaching him to let things go. He was like, you can't stay here if you're going to stay in this jail and be angry. You know, his friend set him up to be thrown away into this prison, which pretty much it looked as if he was going to stay there forever. And he says, well, how am I going to get out of here? He said, I have a right to be mad. He said, my fiance's gone. I'm away from my family. He said, you have to let it go. And so it became clear to me that this priest, he would basically, even though he was in between these four walls and he was an old man, had been there for a long time, he was not a prisoner. He was free. It's because his mind was free. Even though he was in these four walls, way up in this tower, he could not move. He was free. His mind was free. And so the gentleman, Ahmad, I think was his name, he was a prisoner because he was stuck in rage and anger, which of course a lot of people, anybody would be mad in those circumstances, but he was not free. And so eventually, when he was able to escape and he came across a bunch of money, you thought the money would make him happy. It did not. He was still a prisoner of revenge. And that is the light for the tone for Agnihotra. We got 7 minutes or 6 minutes. And so anyway, which is interesting because you would think that how can you be free and you stuck up in a prison in the middle of nowhere? But that, freedom is a state of mind, and it can't depend upon a place that you're in. Because think about it, what if you're in a place where you're free, but because of your thoughts, you're still a prisoner? That's what we were talking about. And so in the end of the movie, he ended up trying to get revenge, and then he had to stop because it was overtaking his life. And so at the end, he went back he bought the place where he had been originally imprisoned, and didn't think he would ever come back there again. And he said, you were right, priest, because the priest had died, that's how he was able to escape. He pretended like he was his dead body, and they dumped it over into the water. He said, you were right. He said, I had to let that stuff go. He says, now I'm going to do all I can to use this money for good, for God's work. And so that was his experience of life. And the only way that he would have learned that is to go through all of that. No one was going to be able to tell him that. He had to experience all of that to understand it wasn't about revenge or anger, and it wasn't about all that money. None of these things satisfied him or made him happy. But only until he realized that letting that go was he able to experience life in the way that you're supposed to, loving, forgiveness, and moving on and learning your lessons. So I just wanted to share that with everybody, and I'm getting ready to light the fire. We have about 5 minutes. I'll light it here in a minute. Where are my matches? But did you have any comments on that? Any of what I said while we were waiting for Agnihotra at 7:27, Jeannie?
Well, I was thinking back. It's a testimony I love to give regarding my brother. Once I remember when I started doing Agnihotra, I guess it's, I don't know, it might have been 2 years back, and my brother was staying with me, and he was very sick, and he would sit with me also doing Agnihotra, and his recovery was remarkable. I mean, his recovery was great. It was fast, and I have to go back and give credit to Agna Holcher on regarding to my brother's healing, and his healing took place really fast because he was pretty sick. But once he started sitting before the fire, I could tell a major difference in his healing.
Yeah, I remember you told me that, and I met her brother before too, so that's wonderful. And the thing is that when you do agriculture, everyone, think about it. If you're purifying the planet, in the purification that we're talking about that happens to you as a human being, that's wonderful. So you're purified in the body, mind, and spirit. So any of these things that we're talking about that we need to work on, whether it be greed, envy, jealousy, if we are not compassionate, we're not loving, if we're not forgiving, these are things that will change in you over time if you do agriculture on a regular basis, because we're meant to walk in love and light and have all these wonderful attributes that I mentioned at all times. And sometimes we forget and we get off the path. And so that's the wonderful thing about agriculture, is that you quickly are purified. Every time you sit in front of the pyramid, and I think Jeannie would agree with me, there's something happens. There's a transformation.
Yes.
Yes, so every time you're brand new when you sit in front of the pyramid and you sit there. And so you don't have to stay stuck. If you were, enraged and angry from the day before, you won't have to be that way after you sit in front of the pyramid. It's constantly fine-tuning you to be the best human possible.
Yes.
I heard that. That's the truth. So we got, you got 2 minutes before agriculture. It's 7:25. I'm just keeping track of the time, so you can't see the fire, but it's a nice big fire here. So I'm moving to the side so everybody can see the fire here. And so everyone, this is the evening mantra. It's in Sanskrit, by the way. All the mantras are in Sanskrit. It's a high vibratory language. Okay, so we got 1 minute. And then we'll sit 1 minute in silence and continue the conversation. Oh my goodness. Oh, that fire's kind of big. Okay. Okay, here we go, everybody. Agniye Swaha, Agniye Idam Namama Prajapatiye Swaha, Prajapatiye Idam Namama. Okay, so it's been about a minute. Okay, everyone, so that is evening agriculture, and it is a different mantra that we say in the morning time than that we say at sunset. But this is the evening agriculture that we do, and millions of people do worldwide. Okay, so to continue the conversation, if you're just now joining the Agriculture Lady, I've been talking with Jeannie Livingston. We've been talking about the benefits of agriculture. We've been talking about living versus just exploring what life is as humans. And then we were talking about a movie where we were talking about one of the characters was dealing with a whole host of emotions to get to the truth. So he was experiencing life. So now, as we were talking earlier before we took a break for agriculture, we're talking about really purification and healing. And Jenny was talking about how her brother was able to heal from a serious ailment. And he was, at her home and benefiting from her doing agriculture. And so when we're talking about purification, this really comes to mind when I'm hearing about all the things that are happening with our water. As a matter of fact, I just posted today on Facebook, I don't know if you all saw it, that now they're saying that in the Houston area tap water, just they reported earlier today that there's a brain-eating amoeba that may be in there. Health officials are warning. And so before that, they have been talking about in Botswana, that they found the bacteria there that killed the 300 elephants. And, this is just a regular water source that they normally drink from. And they're saying that it's this, I think it's called a cyanobacteria, something like that. But it just makes you wonder, if they normally drink from that water source, what has changed? You know what I'm saying? What has changed? It's something that has been happening to the climate. That's what has changed. Animals is still doing their same thing. If their behavior changes, it's changing because of something that we have done. And so that's not good. So, and then also right here in United States, for those that are viewing here in the United States, we've had several schools, I believe in Pennsylvania and Ohio, where they've had Legionnaire's disease, which affects the lungs, but it's appeared in their water supply because, the buildings have been closed, and the way that gets activated to people, because it's not contagious like, from person to person that way, but through mist or through a commercial piping system or commercial AC system. That's what's happened there. So now you're hearing about all sorts of things that are tainting the foods, the water supply. And water is needed for everything. So let's just talk about what happens with water. First of all, water is part of everything. It's in all of our cells. Okay, when a woman is pregnant, the baby is encompassed with this amniotic fluid. That's water. Okay, that's protecting the baby. We use water to grow food. Okay, so that affects the food that we grow. Water is used for everything. As a matter of fact, back in the old days, my uncle Jack, he broke his arm, and back then you couldn't go to a hospital. They lived in the country, and my mother told me about how they put his bone was sticking up out the skin, and they put his arm over a wash bucket, and they just poured cold water continuously over his arm until eventually it knit. It took, I'm sure, several days or maybe a week or so, but this is what they did. This is water, and that's part of old school hydrotherapy technique, so that it's healing. So as a matter of fact, if you take a cold shower continuously, that's one of the old school ways to heal your body. So water is healing in so many different ways. And then on the spiritual part, water is used by every culture all around the world for spiritual reasons. So you have Indians in Asia that have different water rituals. You have Native Americans in America, Canada, and Brazil, indigenous peoples that have water rituals. And then you have Christians that have baptisms and different things. So water is used for all sorts of purification and cleansing. And so we have to take better care of the water supply. It is so healing. I mean, it's part of creation. Most of our bodies are part of water. And people are talking about, well, we can put filtration systems, on our faucets and on our showers, but can we put a filtration system on the entire world's supply of water? No. So what we can do, though, since we cannot control what local government people do to the water supplies, that we can get a agriculture pyramid, and we can perform agriculture to protect the water, because that water is something that we have to survive, and if it's polluted, then so are we. And so it's just really important to think about just our daily living. What would happen if we weren't able to grow food because the water was messed up? Or what are we going to drink? How would we survive without clean water? So pay close attention, everyone, to these headlines about the water. And like, if you're on my Facebook page, you'll see where I did post about what's happening with the tap water in Houston. They've had some other report, what was that, last year, about some brain eating amoeba, but it was in a lake, I think. This is my first time hearing anything in tap water. And that's pretty darn scary. Have you heard some of these reports, Jeannie, about all these things with the water supply and everything?
Yes, I have heard that. I know every time a storm comes through, there's major flooding, and it's always going to bring in a lot of, the pollution is already there. It's going to just increase the pollution because, you got the soil, you got all kind of water that's mixing and mingling. And so it brings in a lot of contamination to the water, So yeah, that happens a good bit now because of the storms that we have.
No, and that's true. And the thing is, when we have these storms, even more pollutants are being loosened up.
Yes.
There are things that are deep down in the earth towards the core that are now being loosened up. And so we need to pay close attention to this. And listen, like, you're not going to be able to ignore it, because if you're not able to grow food, I mean, what are you going to do? What are you going to do when all the water is messed up? Because we're in a closed system. We don't have an endless supply of water, everybody. The same water that we've been using is the same water used, from before Jesus' time. So I don't think people realize that this is a closed system, and we need to really pay close attention to this. So as we talk about these things with water, and really living in a way in which you are finding out about yourself and the things that you're capable of doing as a human being. You as a human being, there are no barriers. The only barriers that are there are what you put on yourself. And we have to do better care of taking care of our planet. Oh, and another thing about water, I don't think a lot of people realize, standing water, like a water in a lake, if water just sits by itself, it can heal itself. A lot of people don't realize that water is meant to be out in nature, and it will cleanse itself. But we do so much stuff to it, and we have to constantly keep cleaning and constantly do this stuff. But water is not made like that. Water just by itself will actually purify itself. And you can go out into the woods and you can see this, that, in nature, water doesn't have all these problems. Water only develops all these problems when we come into contact with it, and we build these dams and do this, and we pipe and we do all these intricate things with it that upsets the balance. But you can go check this out. And actually, if you talk to an indigenous person, or a person that lives in the woods, they can tell you what I'm talking about. Because I know some people listening saying, what do you mean it can purify itself? It most certainly can if you just leave it alone, let it sit still. If you don't mess with it, it's just fine. As soon as you start messing with it, that's when the problem happens. So these are some of the things I want everybody to think about. Did you want to add anything about Agnihotra, Jeannie, as we're winding down?
Yes, Agnihotra has been such a blessing for me. My experience with, me, me mentally, it's been helping me mentally. I could sit before the fire and get a clearing, and I brought it into my practice as a Reiki master, and then with my brother. But not only that, I'm able to share Agnihotra with my friends and family. So and pass that knowledge on and information on. So I'm grateful to pass on this great knowledge on Agnihotra, and people literally they go, they get the kit and they start practicing Agnihotra. I had a friend that I was talking to last night. She said, "You know what? I'm feeling like I need to just pull out my Agnihotra kit." I said, "Well, just do it. Pull it out." 'Cause she lives by water, a lot of water. I told her it's a great time to pull it up. Just be consistent. It works. It's a clearing of the earth, the wind, the soil, the water.
No, that's true. And especially now with, I don't see the climate issues that humans have started being cleared up really quickly. Agriculture is going to be the only way really that we're going to be able to grow food properly and to have clean air. I mean, as a matter of fact, I had somebody come over here yesterday to pick up a kit, and the first thing they did is when they came over here, they were like, wow, the air feels different over here. Wow, what, oh, they immediately, and of course we socially distanced, but they threw off their mask as they, they sat outside and like, my God, it feels different over here. So it's really important to do agriculture because there is a purification that has happened. And there have been tons of scientific studies done, everyone, that talk about what happens, the cleansing of the air, and all these things that are healing that happen to the soil. And I think I mentioned before, and I'll mention again, you don't have to buy bottled water. You can just use a little bit of ash that I showed you guys earlier. You could put it in a gallon glass jug, let it sit out in the sun, and it cleanses the water. So this is a way for you to purify water. And it tastes good. How does agriculture water taste, Jeannie?
It tastes excellent. It's very refreshing. It's very light.
Yes. So yeah, and of course, Jeannie and I were discussing too. The ash, you can also use it. I was also say this is your air purification kit. This is your gardening kit. This is also this is your medicine kit when you sit in front of the pyramid. So you can actually mix the ash with various herbs and use them as medicinal things that you can take internally. Some people make salves and different things for outside topically for the body, but it's very healing. You can bathe and soak in it. It's very healing. So there are different things that you can do. So if you're doing agriculture, this is like several kits in one. Like I said, air purification, water purification, your garden kit. So, and I can tell you, we have a garden over here too, and it was really wonderful to be able to grow healthy food and see the animals and everything respond to that. So I'm going to jump down here and see if there are any questions. I don't think anybody posted any questions. Let me just double check. Here, let me refresh this before we go. And as always, if you don't post questions on Facebook and then you don't want to come on to the Zoom, even with just audio, you can send me questions and I'll answer them on the next show. And I do this every Saturday from 7 to 9. Before we go, let me just show you what we have for sale at ShantiVillaInstitute.com. Here are the kits we have, agriculture kit. There we go, so you can see. And it comes with a booklet. This was designed by Sri Charles. Let me show you the pyramid. Ooh, this is a brand new pyramid. You can see inside of it. The tray, tongs, everything's copper, by the way. Your spoon, cup, and tray. And then we also have these little glass containers so you can put your rice and your ghee. So that's the agriculture pyramid. Other thing that we also sell at ShantiVillaInstitute.com is the mudra book, and I've been doing mudra demonstrations. I did one last week. Here's the secret science of mudras. And this is actually your first aid kit. You know, we got mudras in here for asthma, for heart attacks, for everything in here. I think last week I showed the Garuda mudra, which is the mudra that strengthens all your organs. And then we have the plant food, the Shanti's Ayurvedic Golden Nectar plant food. So this was formulated by Sri Charles. That's also available. So anyway, if you'd like to support the work that we do, feel free to go there and order any of these products. And as always, we appreciate you viewing the show. And thank you so much, Jeannie, for joining us this evening. It was much appreciated.
You're welcome.
And do you have any comments before we sign off?
Well, I want to say I'm thankful for you, Dee, and all that you're doing and being a great teacher. Just want to say thank you.
Oh my goodness, you're welcome. It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure to serve. So everyone, you all have a wonderful evening, okay? And be blessed and full of joy. And I will see you next week on the Agriculture Lady. See you later.
I'm Cherie.
I'm Cherie.